When Pastor John Gray stepped onto that stage with trembling hands and tears in his eyes, no one could have predicted what would happen next. In front of millions, he publicly apologized, not just to his wife, but to his congregation, his followers, and even his critics. But instead of uniting people in forgiveness, his emotional confession set off a firestorm. Some called it courage, others called it manipulation. And as clips of that moment spread across social media, one thing became painfully clear. John Gray's apology may have opened more wounds than it healed. But what exactly did he say that has the internet so divided? Pastor John Gray has always been a figure who sparks conversation. Whether it's his powerful sermons, his larger-than-life personality, or his very public struggles. Over the years, he's been both celebrated and criticized, standing at the crossroads of faith, fame, and controversy. But this time, things feel different. His latest public apology has reignited old debates, exposed new truths, and divided both his followers and his critics in a way we haven't seen before. In this video, we're diving deep into what really happened behind Pastor John Gray's emotional apology. What led up to this moment? What exactly did he say that caused so many people to question his sincerity? And why do some believe this was less about repentance and more about image control? You won't believe the reactions we've uncovered from church leaders, fans, and even those closest to him. Some say it's a powerful step toward healing. Others say it's another performance in a long list of public spectacles. The truth lies somewhere in between. And by the end of this video, we'll break down what this apology really means for John Gray's future, his marriage, and his ministry. Stay with me because we're about to unpack the full story, from the scandal that started it all to the emotional apology that left millions wondering whether redemption is truly possible in the public eye. Now, let's start with the first chapter. The events that led up to this apology and the scandal that never truly went away. To understand why John Gray's recent apology hit so hard, we have to rewind to where it all began, to the moment when his image as a charismatic pastor began to crumble under the weight of public scandal. John Gray wasn't just another preacher. He was one of the most recognizable faces in modern ministry. He had the humor, the style, the emotional delivery that could fill arenas and move millions. From his early days as an associate pastor at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church to becoming the senior pastor of Relentless Church in Greenville, South Carolina, Gray built a brand around transparency, real talk, and spiritual authenticity. He preached about grace, forgiveness, and the struggles of being human, even as he faced some of those same struggles himself. But in 2018, everything changed. Allegations surfaced that John Gray had been unfaithful to his wife, Aventer Gray. The story spread like wildfire across social media. Screenshots, messages, and videos began circulating, and suddenly, one of the most beloved pastors in America was at the center of a moral firestorm. In a moment that shocked his congregation, John publicly acknowledged that he had made mistakes and failed as a husband. He even gifted his wife a brand new Lamborghini SUV shortly afterward, a gesture that some saw as a symbol of repentance, while others saw it as tone-deaf and performative. For many, that became the beginning of a long, complicated chapter in his ministry. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few years, similar accusations would surface again and again. Women came forward with alleged receipts, screenshots, phone calls, and claims that they had private relationships with the pastor. Each time, Gray denied having any physical relationships, insisting that while his actions were inappropriate, they never crossed the line into physical infidelity. Still, the damage was done. His credibility took a massive hit, and his marriage became a public spectacle. Aventer Gray, known for her fiery personality and strong faith, stood by him through the storms, publicly forgiving her husband more than once. Many admired her strength, but others accused her of enabling a cycle of public embarrassment and private pain. Through all of this, John continued to preach, even using his own failures as part of his sermons. He talked about being broken but redeemed, about falling short but getting back up. Yet the internet never forgot. Every time he stepped on a stage, the whispers followed. Every time he preached about family or marriage, the past resurfaced. By 2023, Gray's reputation was split right down the middle. To some, he was a living testimony of grace. To others, he was a man who preached what he couldn't practice. And as the church world continued to evolve, one question kept lingering. Could John Gray ever truly regain the trust of the public? That's where his recent public apology comes in, a moment that was supposed to heal old wounds, but instead opened new ones. Because while some saw it as a heartfelt confession, others saw it as another performance. But before we get to that, we need to look closer at what pushed him to finally speak out again and why this apology felt so different from the ones before. By the time John Gray decided to stand before his congregation and issue that now-viral apology, years of tension, criticism, and personal turmoil had already built up behind the scenes. His ministry had survived scandals before, but this time something felt different. The pressure wasn't just coming from gossip blogs or social media users. It was coming from within the church community itself. Over the past few years, Gray had faced immense backlash not only for the allegations of infidelity, but for how he handled them. Every public statement, every social media post, and every sermon was dissected for hidden meanings or subtle jabs. Church members whispered. Online critics amplified every rumor. And even among fellow pastors, many began quietly distancing themselves. Some congregations questioned his leadership, while others accused him of exploiting the pulpit to rebuild his image rather than serve his flock. Behind the smiling photos and fiery sermons, sources close to the ministry revealed that John and Aventer's marriage had reached a critical point. According to insiders, counseling sessions became more frequent, public appearances more strained. The once unshakable chemistry between them seemed visibly tense in interviews and church events. Aventer, who had always defended her husband with passion and grace, appeared more guarded. She wasn't silent, but her tone had changed from fiery defense to quiet resolve. At the same time, Gray's health struggles began making headlines. In mid-2022, he was hospitalized with life-threatening pulmonary embolisms that nearly cost him his life. That experience, he later said, changed everything. It forced him to confront his mortality, his faith, and the true cost of living under constant public judgment. I should have been dead, Gray admitted in a sermon. But God gave me another chance. The question is, what will I do with it? It was after that health scare that many noticed a shift in his tone. Gone was the overly confident, larger-than-life pastor persona. What emerged instead was a man visibly burdened by his past. His sermons turned introspective. His posts grew more spiritual, less performative. And behind the scenes, his team began preparing what would become the most vulnerable moment of his career, a public apology that would aim to set the record straight once and for all. When the day of the apology arrived, the atmosphere at Relentless Church was thick with tension. The room was packed, cameras ready, and the live stream already trending before Gray even took the stage. Some viewers tuned in hoping for redemption. Others came expecting another spectacle. John Gray began slowly, his voice trembling as he spoke about his failures, not as a pastor, but as a man. He talked about pride, temptation, and how he let the weight of success distract him from his purpose. He admitted that his choices had hurt people who looked up to him and betrayed the trust of those closest to him. For the first time, he didn't try to justify. He didn't deflect blame. He simply said, "I was wrong." And that simple phrase, those 3 words, sent shockwaves across the internet because for years critics had accused him of sidestepping accountability, of using spirituality as a shield. This time, however, he looked directly into the camera and owned it. The apology was raw. It was emotional. It was everything people said they wanted from him. Yet somehow, it also divided his audience more than ever before. As the video spread across YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter, debates erupted. Some praised his vulnerability, saying it showed true growth and repentance. Others argued that it was yet another performance, a carefully crafted PR move designed to restore his brand rather than his soul. But what many didn't realize was that there was much more happening behind that apology than anyone saw on stage. There were phone calls, private letters, meetings with former staff, and reconciliations that took months to reach. And still, some wounds never healed. Because in the world of faith, forgiveness is preached easily but practiced painfully. And as the internet continued to pick apart his every word, one burning question began to emerge. Was John Gray's apology truly about repentance, or was it about rebuilding his reputation? That's where the story gets even more complicated. When John Gray stood before his congregation to deliver what would become one of the most talked about apologies in modern church history, There was a noticeable silence that filled the sanctuary. No one clapped. No one shouted, "Amen." People leaned forward, waiting to hear if this was finally the moment he would confront everything. Every rumor, every headline, every unanswered question. His voice cracked as he began, "I failed God. I've failed my wife, and I've failed many of you." The crowd froze. This wasn't the charismatic, booming-voiced preacher they were used to. This was a man stripped down to the truth. He continued, "I allowed ego to drive decisions that dishonored the calling on my life. I hurt people who trusted me, and I can't take that back." Those words hit hard. For years, Gray had walked a tightrope between spiritual leader and celebrity figure. His charm, humor, and emotional sermons made him a star in the modern Christian world. He was featured on Oprah's network, praised by megachurch pastors, and loved for his raw, relatable preaching style. But fame brought scrutiny, and Gray's life had become public property. Every misstep, every rumor magnified for the world to see. In his apology, he didn't mention specific names or incidents, but everyone knew what he was referring to: the alleged affairs, the emotional entanglements, the leaked messages, and the endless speculation. Instead of deflecting, he confronted the pain head-on. "You don't have to remind me of my mistakes," he said, pausing for a moment as his voice trembled. "I live with them every day. I see them in the eyes of those I love. I see them in the trust one have to rebuild. And I know that forgiveness is not owed to me. It's something I must earn." That line, "Forgiveness is something I must earn," sparked immediate conversation online. It was unusual to hear a pastor, someone seen as a spiritual authority, admit that he wasn't above reproach. Clips of that moment flooded TikTok and Instagram within hours. Some users commented, "Finally, accountability from a man of God." Others were more cynical, writing, "He's only sorry because he got caught."